This is a highly complex machine. You men had better brace yourself. You've got 3 weeks to learn it.
We've got to pilot this ourselves?
During World War II, a crucial conference convenes in London to strategize an upcoming mission: the transportation of a stolen German submarine carrying uranium from the Belgian Congo to New York for the Manhattan Project. At the urging of General Meiss, the mission falls into the hands of a group of German resistance fighters led by Stan. Stan and his team are stationed at a camp in Flanders, where they regularly ambush German soldiers in retaliation for Nazi atrocities. Among the members is Stan's daughter, Nadine, who feels excluded from combat duties, causing tension between her and Stan. Her boyfriend, Philippe, reassures her that Stan's actions stem from a desire to protect her. During a conversation, Philippe reveals a special bullet to Nadine, which she fires, witnessing its devastating effects. Despite his outward courage, Stan battles nightmares of his past captivity by German soldiers who killed his wife and tortured him for information. Nadine cares for him and tries to broach the subject of her mother and brother Louis, whom Stan claims is in France but avoids discussing. The group receives word of the dangerous mission to transport uranium to the US. Upon arrival in Congo, they meet Captain Meiss, who briefs them on the mission's gravity. The uranium will be used to construct a devastating bomb capable of citywide destruction within seconds. With only 3 weeks to master the submarine operation, they enlist the help of German Navy Captain Franz. Initially hesitant, Stan reluctantly agrees to work with Franz, who trains them on the submarine's intricacies, emphasizing its transport-focused nature and forbidding the use of torpedoes. After assigning roles to the group, Stan informs Nadine that she will not accompany them on the mission, insisting she return to the boat transporting uranium. Despite Nadine's objections, Stan stands firm, unwilling to endanger her on what he views as a suicide mission. Following Franz's briefing, the group manages to start the submarine's engines for the first time, marking the beginning of their challenging journey. The next morning, the boat arrives, and the group begins transferring uranium boxes to the submarine while Nadine prepares to depart. Werner intercepts a signal on the radio, discovering a message from another ship indicating the presence of the German Navy in the area. He rushes outside to alert the group, who also observe the approaching ships. Anticipating an imminent attack, Meiss instructs the group to take the submarine into deeper waters, acknowledging they lack the time for further training. Despite Meiss' earlier assurance to Franz of releasing him after training, the urgency forces them to abandon that plan. Franz resists, engaging in a physical struggle with Meiss, recognizing the mission's near impossibility. Meanwhile, Stan intercepts another message, realizing the ships are preparing for an assault. He hurries to the deck, urging the boat captain to depart immediately. A gunshot rings out, revealing that Franz has fatally shot Captain Meiss. Enraged, Stan seeks vengeance, but Werner intervenes, emphasizing their dependence on Franz's expertise in piloting. As Stan leaves the compartment, he encounters Nadine and informs her she must remain on board as the boat has already departed. Meanwhile, the group members descend into the submarine, discovering that Jenga, an African crew member who arrived on the boat, has been left behind. Franz hesitates to accommodate him but ultimately relents. With urgency, they start the engines, compelling Stan to coerce Franz into aiding them, despite his reluctance. As Tammy and Kelissa struggle to open the main belt, Jenga assists them, forging a bond with the crew. Despite the ship's distant approach, they submerge the submarine, encountering a leak that Franz, hindered by his handcuffs, struggles to address. Franz requests Stan remove his restraints to assist effectively, but Stan refuses, citing distrust. A German plane searches for the submarine but fails to locate it as they dive underwater. A mishap in the bathroom prompts a scuffle between Tammy and Franz, whose warnings about the battery's vulnerability prove valid as they resurface to pump out water. The passing plane refrains from attacking, with Franz asserting he'll monitor them and only strike when they descend again, highlighting the submarine's vulnerability while submerged. Werner suggests remaining surfaced until the plane exhausts its fuel, but Franz dismisses the idea, fearing the pilot may summon reinforcements. Following Franz's advice, they submerge again, but Stan remains on deck, shooting down the plane just before it attacks. In the dead of night, Stan is plagued by another haunting nightmare, vividly recalling the tragic loss of his toddler son, Louise, at the hands of heartless soldiers who callously drowned the child while Stan was helplessly bound by chains. This harrowing memory prompts him to briefly consider removing Franz's handcuffs out of empathy, but he ultimately decides against it. Meanwhile, Captain Franz, noticing Philippe's absence from duty, sets out to retrieve him, only to stumble upon Philippe and Nadine sharing an intimate moment. Franz confronts them, attempting to divert Stan's attention away, but Stan catches sight of them and lashes out, assaulting Philippe. Nadine intervenes, prompting Franz to assert his dominance and warn her to keep her distance from Philippe until they are wed. Moved by Franz's ultimatum, Nadine impetuously decides to marry Philippe then and there, inviting everyone to witness the impromptu ceremony on deck, officiated by Franz. However, before the vows can be exchanged, Stan interrupts, alerting them to the approaching enemy ships, sending everyone scrambling back inside for safety. As tensions simmer, Philippe tries to reassure Nadine of his commitment, promising to marry her once they reach the US. In a heart-to-heart conversation, Nadine reveals her plan to introduce Philippe to his mother in France, unaware that Philippe is already aware of the tragic fate of his family. Philippe, overcome with emotion, confesses that Stan concealed the truth from Nadine out of fear of seeing her devastated. Meanwhile, Werner alerts the group to an impending German torpedo attack, narrowly dodging disaster as the projectile narrowly misses their vessel. Franz orders a silent shutdown of the engines to evade detection, dispatching Van Prague and Kellyse to prepare a retaliatory strike. Tragically, a mishap during the preparation results in Van Prague sustaining severe leg injuries. After extricating Van Prague with Jenga's assistance, they launch the torpedo, but their jubilation is short-lived as their submarine is struck by an enemy torpedo, causing significant damage. Amidst the chaos, they manage to regain control, but the celebration is cut short by the grim reality of Van Prague's grievous wounds. With no other option, Stan grapples with the agonizing decision to amputate Van Prague's legs to save his life, but Franz, grappling with his own internal conflict, refuses to perform the procedure, fearing the emotional aftermath. He asks Franz to do it, but he refuses, saying if he does, he won't ever be able to face Van again. Amidst their heated debate and realizing they have no other recourse, they decide to inebriate him, allowing Werner to perform the necessary amputation on Van Prague's leg. As the somber group gathers around their injured comrade, Stan shares a solemn moment with Captain Franz, relinquishing the keys to his handcuffs under the pretense of facilitating his assistance in operating the engines. Witnessing Franz's distress over Van's condition, Stan attempts to console him, highlighting Van's lost ability to pursue his passion for football. In turn, Franz reveals his own past as a soldier, expressing regret for not having had a choice in his allegiances and affiliation with the Nazis. As the German ships draw near, Stan instructs Franz to engage in dialogue with the approaching captain, assuming the guise of a German naval officer and fabricating a technical issue on the submarine. Though initially resistant, Franz acquiesces to Stan's plan, emphasizing the necessity of their ruse to avert suspicion. When soldiers from the other ship board the submarine, Franz successfully deflects their inquiries, maintaining the facade of an innocuous accident. However, tensions escalate when a scuffle ensues, resulting in the tragic deaths of Werner and Van Prague. In a daring act, Franz intervenes, thwarting the enemy captain's assault on Stan and revealing his true motivations, to prevent the Germans from obtaining the uranium and wreaking havoc. With time running short and suspicions mounting, Stan directs Nadine to eliminate the threat posed by the other ship. Armed with the special bullet provided by Philippe, Nadine successfully destroys the vessel, albeit at the cost of the submarine's integrity as it collides with the wreckage. As chaos ensues and water floods the vessel, Stan sustains injuries while attempting to save Tammy, who tragically succumbs to the rising tide. In a desperate bid for survival, the remaining members retreat to the main area, inadvertently leaving Nadine stranded outside as the submarine sinks deeper. Alerted to her perilous predicament, Franz endeavors to rescue her, braving the perilous depths to reach his daughter and ultimately succeeding in bringing her to safety. Realizing that manual intervention is their only hope for resurfacing, Franz departs to initiate the engines manually, leaving the fate of the stranded submarine and its occupants hanging in the balance. In his final moments, an injured Stan entrusts Philippe with his daughter's well-being, passing on the wedding ring as a symbol of this solemn commitment. Despite Franz's valiant efforts to restart the submarine, he tragically loses his life in the struggle, while Stan succumbs to his injuries just as they near the shores of New York. 4 years later, the surviving members, Kellyse, Jenga, Franz, Nadine, and Philippe, now accompanied by their son, have relocated to Miami. As the radio broadcasts news of the U.S. government's deployment of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and the discovery of a new weapon of mass destruction, the group reflects on the harrowing journey that brought them to this moment of uncertain peace. To watch more video like this, click on the videos on your screen, and don't forget to let me know how you feel about today's video in the comments down below. And at last I will say stay safe and stay healthy. See you next videos.